Ladies and gentlemen, it is important to know that when God calls you into ministry, it's because He loves you, not because you deserve it. And the other thing you need to understand is it is suicidal to enter into ministry without God's backing. There are many people who are doing ministry today and God do not know them. There are many people who are performing all kind of things and God is not aware of them. I want to say this. Anybody that enters into ministry without God's backing has signed a contract with premature death. As a matter of fact, you are telling death to come for you earlier. You cannot enter into a lion's cage or den and with popcorns and you're expecting the lion which has been hungry for 10 days fasting not to feast on you. You are in the battlefield. You are not in a camping ground. You are not in a picnic land. Ministry is a battlefield. It is where you are there to get souls for Jesus. You are talking about dealing with demonic instigations. You are talking about dealing with sicknesses that have been there a long time. You are dealing with altars and disorders. You are dealing with generational patterns that must be broken. You cannot afford to enter into such a thing without being conscious of the mind of God. And it is important at this point of time you understand that it is in ministry that you need a militant spirit. You cannot claim to have grace in ministry. You cannot tell me that you are okay without knowing what you need to do in the battlefield. And I have this submission to you: to enter into ministry without God is like a man taking the army regalia and fittings, and you wear the gears of a military man, and you enter into a battle thinking that you become a military and thinking that your mind is a military man, and all you have, you're meeting an enemy that has been parading themselves for you for a long time, enough time. I want to say this: and going to battle without oil is dangerous. You need the flesh oil of David to go and kill Goliath. Old oil don't kill Goliath. You don't get what I'm saying. Every man that does not need flesh oil, you cannot win battles in your current state. Many times, many people today, they are walking behind life. They are walking in unity with their old oil, and all you carry is old oil. Old oil don't solve future things. That's why laziness in ministry is dangerous. It is good to have purity of life. It is good to have purity of life. It is good to live a pure life. It's good to have a life worth living. But let me tell you something. You need oil. You need oil. I say you need oil, for this is what you need right now. And I want to pray to God right now in the name of Jesus, that someone you come into their senses and know you need God's presence. Moses told God, if your presence do not go with me, if your presence do not go with me, if your presence do not go with me, we are not moving out of this place. Don't get me out of this place. Moses knew the asset of a minister is God's presence. Without God's presence, your ministry is invalid. You cannot move far. And I want to say this: many people have gone to Bible school and they have ended up opening ministries and feeling disappointed about life, thinking that when you go to Bible school, you receive a call. Bible school don't make your calling well. You don't go to Bible school to be called. Anybody can go to Bible school. Anyone can enter there. But this is a challenge I'm giving you tonight. If you want to go places, listen to the voice of Elohim. Listen to God's plan. Know where you're being called. You answer to a call. To go to Bible school does not mean you're a preacher. To go to Bible school does not mean you're claiming and giving yourself titles. Is only attracting battle to your life. There are many people, because of not being called, all they carry is titles. You can carry a title for the rest of your life But this is what you don't know. Any title you carry has assigned demons that fight those titles. If you don't carry the oil of your title, it automatically means you will come tumbling down like a card. You will lambo down. When that time you come, you die prematurely because you have engaged a battle you're not setting up for. There are many people today who are confessing, if God be for me, who can be against me? But they have to be conscious about that statement. God's presence is what makes the devil not have an upper hand against you. What it means when it says, who can be against me? It means who can be able to have dominion over me. In other words, it is only guaranteed that the enemy will not have an upper hand upon you if God be for you. And listen to me, it is God who defends his own. If God never called for any assignment, he will not defend you. Anything you do that God never called you to do, he is not there for you. It's not that he doesn't care, but God he does not take part in what he never started. He cannot take part in that assignment that he never gave you. How can God commit an illegality? God cannot engage an illegality. I am talking to someone tonight. May heaven hear you and answer you. May you desire to carry the presence of God. It is the presence of God that makes you whole. It is the presence of God that moves your life. It is the presence of God that makes your ministry variable and verifiable and legitimate in life. To be a minister without oil, to be a minister without God's presence, is literally to become a soldier, a commander in the battle without authority. You cannot have hope without God. I pray to heavens today that you will know that God's presence in a minister's life, if there is something any minister ought to fight to keep, is God's presence. Many people are fighting for money. Many people are fighting to have financial grace. Many people are fighting for gifting expressions. Let me talk to you. I've seen prophets rise up and fail. I've seen preachers come up very quickly and crash very easily. Why? Because what is viable, it is, listen to me, God told me one thing. Gifts are good, but my presence is very important. God's presence is very important. You don't understand what I'm saying. It is God's presence that makes a difference in your life. It is God's presence that makes a difference in your life. I want to talk to you today and tell you this. God is able to do all that men cannot do. And I want to say this. I desire to hear God more than anything else. I desire more of him than anybody else. May heaven hear you. May you carry the presence of God. Many people are looking after the gifts without the presence. What keeps the presence of God is purity, holiness. What keeps the presence of God is purity. What keeps the presence of God is a mouth of worship. And what keeps the presence of God is a life of consistency and love. May God give you them desire as a minister to have God's presence.